Hello, everyone. My name is Manuel Girona, and for my leadership interview, I chose Corey Johnson. Corey Johnson is a player representative for TaylorMade. TaylorMade is one of the world's largest golf club, ball, and apparel manufacturer in the world. I have been extremely honored and blessed to be represented by Mr. Johnson in my golfing career. His job is to recruit junior and amateur players all around the world to play TaylorMade golf clubs and balls. He travels all around the world, all the way from California to China, where China is where he just got back from, actually. I was able to get this interview with Mr. Johnson because of the relationship that him and I have built in the past 5 years, which was when he first reached out to me about playing TaylorMade clubs. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was just a 15-year-old boy, had recently just committed to play golf at the University of Florida, and after a tournament round at Champions Gate Golf Club in Orlando, Mr. Johnson introduced himself to me, and we had a great conversation about my game and my career. The conversation ended with him giving his business card to me and saying that if there was anything that him and TaylorMade could do to help me get better, to please reach out. At the time, I was still playing Titleist golf clubs, so I was uncertain of the decision, but ultimately my relationship with Corey and I ultimately made the decision for me to switch to TaylorMade golf clubs, and I gave him a phone call and we established the relationship. Mr. Johnson is one of the nicest and most caring individuals that I have ever met in my life. He has always reached out to me and asked me how I've been, and he has never turned me down. During the interview, I noticed Mr. Johnson was a very outspoken person who could go on and on about anything that was an interesting topic of conversation. I also noticed that he was using his hands a lot when he was speaking to emphasize his statements, which I thought was a very interesting and strong speaking characteristic for a leader. Mr. Johnson is also extremely caring for others and cares about other people more than he does for himself. During my interview, we spoke about what it was like to recruit juniors and amateur players to play TaylorMade clubs. And as a leader, he stated that your first impression has to be amazing. Get them into you quick, and after that, just build a strong relationship. I thought that quote was very helpful in any sort of situation. Throughout the interview, I noticed how strong mentally he is and how great of a leader he is as well. He was talking about how he also picks out the strong leaders that represent the brand well when he's watching other players. The key characteristics that we talked about in the interview heavily relied around confidence, communication, and discipline. Mr. Johnson mentioned that he wakes up every day, looks himself in the mirror, and tells himself that he's an amazing player rep. He takes on every day trying to beat it and trying to acquire the top players in the country. Communication also plays a large role in his leadership characteristics because, as he's mentioned, he has to communicate with all of his players when they need clubs or equipment. He mentions how tough it is to catch up with all of them, all the emails, phone calls, but he prioritizes it, which showed me how committed he is to his job. And lastly, we talked about how discipline is such a crucial aspect of leadership. Mr. Johnson said that discipline is what gets you out of bed in the morning and helps you get your stuff done. He said that without discipline, he believes that nothing can be done properly or efficiently in life. During the interview, Mr. Johnson also told me about the story of when he had to speak in front of hundreds of people as the head representative for TaylorMade Golf. He said that it was one of the scariest moments of his life, and he wishes that he would have been more prepared for it, but ultimately he believed in himself, trusted his gut, and went through his presentation, like he said, like nobody's business. Um, My perception of Mr. Johnson as a leader was very respectable before this interview, but after the interview, throughout the interview, I really picked his brain and ultimately truly saw the characteristics that he lives by. And in all honesty, I can tell those traits are on his mind because he is one of the most confident and disciplined people I've ever met in my life. I think one of the strongest points that I got from this interview was the quote he mentioned about trying to get something you don't think is possible. So the quote was, even if you think something is out of reach, don't give up. Just believe in yourself, know who you really are, and I promise you things will work out. So this quote for me really hit home because where I feel like I lack in leadership or in life is when I get down on myself and I don't always believe in myself as much as I should. Mr. Johnson truly helped me have a real life understanding of leadership, and I was very, very thankful that I was able to speak with him. Thank you very much, and have a great day.